Hi guys, this is Brad, Monique, and we've also got Zane that's joining us with today's Facebook Live. Today it's all about use it or you lose it, and it's a big concept that I want to share with you. It's a concept that I've more or less just been reminded about, and I will touch on this too through a great book that I'm reading at the moment. It's all about changing the brain, and I will share that with you in a moment. But what we want you to do is to really grasp this concept of use it or you'll lose it, and also then determine as to how you can apply it in other areas of your lives. So that's the concept, use it or you lose it. It's a big concept. I'll check in with Monique right now as to her understanding of the concept and why you believe it's so important for us to, I guess, get a good grasp of this concept.
Well, I guess for me, the concept of use it or you lose it really comes into play when you think about the school system of today. And they teach kids over and over the same thing for a short period of time, and then they move on to something else. And I think sometimes you get out of school and you realize, I've never used that ever again. And I experienced that with uni even. There were some things that we learned and we never ever used them again, at least not that you know of doing. Yes, there's plenty of things that you use all the time, and I guess the very basics will always be very important. But so it comes down to, if you really want to develop a skill that can help you to change your results, you have to keep using the new strategies that you want to actually get you there. So I think that's what it means for me, and that's why it's so important. So I know that when people get a new strategy, they might try it for a little while, but they might forget to keep going with it. And I mean, that's definitely for me something we're seeing a lot at right now as well.
Yeah, so as I said previously, what I wanted to do was just share with you how I was reminded about this concept. And it's a big concept. And when it comes to use it or you lose it, a great book that I'm reading at the moment is a book called The Brain That Changes Itself by Norman Dodge. And in that book he talks about the importance of using it or you lose it when it comes to our brain. The book is also about, and there's some personal I guess for myself, there's some personal points as to relevance as to why I'm reading this book. My dad has recently had a major stroke, and this book is about essentially people who have suffered with things like strokes. It might be even it touches on Parkinson's disease. It talks about even things like cerebral palsy. But in some of the sections where it talks about the therapy for people who have experienced major strokes, and one of the things that it talks about when it comes to the brain, how it's so important to use it or you lose it. Some of the ideas that are mentioned in the book which makes a lot of sense at a fundamental level, where that if somebody were, for example, paralyzed on their left side of their body, in their left hand, and they're struggling with movement in their left leg, what they've done in some of the therapy sessions with some of these clients, and it goes against all principles in many ways. In the therapy sessions, what they were often doing is they were if we use the example of somebody who's lost the capacity in their left hand, what they were doing in therapy is they were actually putting a sling on the patient's right hand. And it goes against all, I guess, principles that we know. And the purpose behind that was to get the patient to use their left hand. So use it or you lose it. So while the patient was in therapy, and often intensive therapy, the idea was to get them to use that left hand as much as possible to get that functionality to come back. So there's an example of how to use it when you lose it, or the importance of using it or you lose it. when it comes to even rehabilitation, such as, people going to rehab when it comes to things like strokes. And the idea then is also then to get that part of the brain, firing again, so that the people can get that functionality to come back. So what are some of the other ways that we can use this concept? Use it or you lose it. Well, it can also apply to when it comes to our muscles. As a matter of fact, the author talks about in that book, he calls it our brain, the use it or you lose it brain. Well, what I would like to suggest to you is that concept also applies when it comes to our muscles. It's the same thing when it comes to exercise. Use it or you lose it. So if we were not to go and have, and as part of our routine, have regular exercise, what will then happen is our muscles will start to, decline. They'll start to deteriorate. So it even applies to that concept. Use it or you lose it. So this is more than just words. What we want you to do is to understand this concept, but more importantly, what we want you to do is to find ways to apply it. Find ways to apply it into your life. So certainly take it on board, but ask yourself, how can I apply this concept in my life? I've given you a couple of examples, even when it comes to our brain. Use it or you lose it. When it comes to things like our muscles, once again, use it or you lose it. What about our skills? When it comes to our skills, we all have skills, and if we were not to continue to develop or enhance those skills, well, the same thing will apply. We will start to lose the ability to be able to use those skills at that level. As a matter of fact, when it comes to mastery, mastery is about taking a skill and taking it to the next level. And so that's definitely using it. And to tie this into our previous Facebook Live, if you haven't had a chance to go and watch that, that was all about consistency. So when it comes to use it or you lose it, you certainly want to attach that concept of consistency to it. Because when we, through consistency, continually to practice a skill or a behavior, that's when we're aiming to turn it into habitual behavior. And as I said, I'm also going to be sharing a lot of information this year about developing good habits. Let's just take that concept one step further. When it comes to our kids, when it comes to us as adults and parents, to be modeling this behavior. Well, let's take that concept when it comes to use it or you'll lose it when it comes to our strengths. What about identifying your strengths? We all have strengths. And, it's the way to manage our lives. If we were to identify our strengths and use them and take them to the next level, how much more satisfying would life be? How much more rewarding would life be if we were to do that with our strengths? And as a parent, help our children to identify what their strengths are. And then as a result of doing that, encouraging them to use it or they will lose it. We all have gifts. It's another way of looking at strengths. It's a gift. We're all different. We're all unique. And so it's a gift. Our strengths are our gifts, and it's important for us to make use of those, to utilize them. So that's a big concept. I was actually going to wrap up, but I'll just add one other final part to this, and I think this will really make sense when it comes to this concept. One other big area that we want to use this concept is when it comes to our systems. So when it comes to goals, for example, a goal will give you the direction that we need to take. However, it's the system that's going to allow us to accomplish the goal. Use the system. And if we were not to use the system to help us to accomplish our goals, it just makes it so much harder. So keep in mind, you know, it's the goals that give us the direction. It's the system we create that will help us to accomplish the goal. And fundamentally important to use the system to help us to accomplish what we want. So there's at least a couple of reasons as to how you can use the concept of use it or you will lose it. Guys, this is Brad Everton. I did have Monique and Zane. Monique's just looking after Zane at the moment. But that's a really big concept today. I want you to not just take this concept on board, but more importantly ask yourself, how can I apply it into my life? Use it or you lose it. Big concept. And if you're finding these videos valuable, please share them with others. Share them with other people, because these are life concepts. And as you can see, they're also simple too. But the important thing is we must implement it, because it's not enough to know. We must do what we know if we want better outcomes and better results. And that's what we're all looking for. So this is Brad Everton. May you have an on-track day, and bye for now.